Venerable Siddhamma Thero and Venerable Sir, and dear brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, this is the Friday talk, a special tradition in the Buddhist Mahavihara to have a Friday Dhamma talk. There is one of the many traditions that our late chief Kesri Dhammananda Nayaka Mahathero started, this tradition of Friday talk. As I have talked about this earlier also, and we don't find Friday talks in any other country or any other Buddhist temples. Like Friday talks, and this is more like unique to Malaysia and especially to Buddhist Mahavihara. Because of this culture, Friday is a religious day in Malaysia. I think our late chief utilized that tradition, and then he started this tradition of having Friday Dhamma talk. So now, when it comes to Friday, people think that they need to listen to a Dhamma talk, a Friday talk. So I'm so glad that I am here again to give one of the Friday talks today. And so our topic today will be about what we can learn from the life of the Buddha. So of course Buddha has given us so many wonderful teachings, so many profound teachings about our life, the world and everything. But not only the teachings of the Buddha, but actually his own life itself can be a lesson, can be a teachings to us. So the Buddha's whole life itself is a teaching. So because the Buddha's life is actually the life he lived is also his teachings. So we have a special term that we refer to the Buddha. In Pali we call yatha vadi tatha kari. What Buddha preaches, and then the Buddha behaves in the same way. So that special quality, what he preached is what he practiced, and what he practiced is what he preaches. So what he practiced was what he preached, and what he preached was what he practiced. Yatha Kari Tatha Vadi and Yatha Vadi Tatha Kari. So therefore, simply learning the very life of the Buddha can be a learning his Dhamma. His life was not different from his Dhamma. His Dhamma was his life was his Dhamma also. So today we are going to spend some time. I'm going to select few incidents, few life events of the Buddha, and to see what we can learn from those few incidents. But as you know, there are so many lessons that we can learn, and I try to at least talk about maybe less of 4 or 5 lessons, based on our time available to us, and what the lessons that we can learn. So if we can start with the early life of the Buddha, and we are very fortunate that we have few discourses of the Buddha directly from the Buddha that we can learn some of the early parts of his life. But we need to understand that the most of the life story of the Buddha, particularly the story before he became the Buddha, was kind of put together much later. But still, if you refer to the original discourses of the Buddha, original sources, we find few places where we can get few snapshots. And those are really like gems for us. Because nobody was paying attention to the life of the Buddha before he became the Buddha. Like he was one of the princes living in the area, nobody was paying attention to. And the stories of the life of the Buddha before he became the Buddha as Bodhisattva was kind of collected much later when there was such a need. But we still can rely on a few important discourses where Buddha talked about his childhood, where the Buddha talked about his life in the palace. There are a few discourses like gems for us to really have a real information, and all other information was gathered much later, and and some information has. So then, of course, we have full accounts of the life of the Buddha even before he became the Buddha in his life as a prince. But what we find in the early discourses are only few snapshots. So there's one interesting discourse called Sukumala discourse, where actually Buddha describing the kind of life he spent as a prince. Sukumala, the very term Sukumala actually means refinement, the kind of luxurious life he had. And in this particular discourse, Buddha was telling to the monks and his disciples, the kind of life I had was utmost refinement, total luxury. And he explained that how his father built so many ponds around the palace. And he said some ponds were only red lotuses, and some ponds were only blue lotuses, and some ponds were only white lotuses. They were all made just for me. And my father also built me 3 palaces. That we know that thing, but that's actually historical fact, because those reference of 3 palaces are found in the original discourses themselves. And he explained that the father built 3 palaces for 3 different reasons, and I lived in them, and I was entertained by all the female servants, female workers. And he said actually he spent his rainy season 4 months in that palace, attended by all female attendants, and without a single man among them. He was the only man among all the female attendants to him for all 4 months. That's the kind of life he lived. He himself revealed to the monks. He was not hesitant to talk about his previous life. And he further said that I had such a refined life that I did not use sandalwood if they are not from Varanasi. Because Varanasi was like maybe Paris nowadays, the city that has more refined products. So if the sandalwoods were not from Varanasi, he may not use. And all his turban, his tunic, his lower garments, outer cloak, all these things have to come from Varanasi. Like nowadays, like a branded, branded clothes. So he only used those things. So he had such a refined, such a luxury life. And he recalled that life. But at the end of explaining the kind of luxurious life, he said, even though I was endowed with such a fortune, such a luxury, a thought occurred to me that I have not transcended the possibility of growing old. When he was in his prime youth, having all this luxurious, he had a thought. He was mindful about the fact that I will not be able to enjoy these pleasures forever. And he had that thought that if I am growing old day by day, is this the life that I should really live? If I am a person who's aging day by day, is this the life that I should live? Can I really take everything for granted? So he revealed that even though I have those luxuries, I had this realization. I was questioning that, is this real life? That what I'm experiencing, is this the reality of life? And he was realizing that my body is aging. Of course, now I'm in the prime youth. It's very, very hard for a person in his prime youth to understand any idea of growing old, right? And I remember one of our old friend, members of our society, she was quite old, and he welcomed a newcomer who was in his 20s, and said that, one thing I want to tell you, that you please never get old. That is so horrible. And she's telling to the young man, never get old. You will never understand what it feels like. It is so horrible. But please never get old. Because for a young man, it's so difficult to understand what it means to get old. But for the Bodhisattva, for the Prince Siddhartha, he was contemplating on these ideas. So he said, because even though I have this luxury, I had that thought that is this the reality of my life? And if I am an aging person, is this the way to live my life? And is this the reality of life? And then he again contemplated that, am I completely away from possibility of getting sick? If I am subject to illness, if my body is subject to illness, is this the best way to live my life? And then again, the third reflection came to his mind was that if I am subject to death, if I have not transcended the death, if I am dying at the end of the day, and is this the way to live my life? So among all these luxuries, refinements, all these facilities, fortunes, he was able to have that insight, that reflection. So what he really had, that he was not fooled by the fortunes of life. So that is the first lesson that I would like to emphasize here, that even as a prince, having all these luxuries, he was not fooled by them. And then later he explained in the same discourse that there are 3 intoxications that we may be intoxicated, we may be, fooled by. 3 intoxications. Intoxication of youth, intoxication of health, intoxication of life. Youth, youthfulness, health, and longevity are the fortunes in life, our life. These are the best things to have, right? But Buddha shows that there's a danger if you are not mindful, if you are not careful enough. Those very fortunes can be an intoxication, can be a reason for arrogance. Youth, health, and longevity. So when we have them, not to be fooled by them, and not to be arrogant on the count of being youthful and being healthy and having a long life, is the lesson we can learn. So that is why he was able to, even if he has all these fortunes, all these luxuries, he was able to go beyond them and made his life better. And if we continue to enjoy those luxuries, being fooled by them, and eventually definitely he will grow old, he will definitely get sick, and he will definitely die, and he will not become a great spiritual teacher, and at the end he failed his life, right? It doesn't matter whether he's a prince, he has all these palaces and all these things. Who can enjoy those things forever? Right? When you get sick, of course you can't enjoy anything, right? Of course, unfortunately if you get diabetes, and we can maybe not able to enjoy the most, things you like, right? You can have all the ability to buy any food you like to eat, but you will not be able to enjoy, for example. So simply having those things doesn't mean that, we should be satisfied with them. So that's the first lesson. Not to be intoxicated, not to be fooled by the fortunes of the life. And particularly, the lesson we can learn is actually when we are having good time. Not when we are having bad times. Particularly, when we are having good time, our ignorance can be enhanced. Our delusions can be enhanced. Be careful on that. when things are happening well, when things are good in our life, we may have so many delusions. We may strengthen our delusions without our knowing. And particularly when things are going well in our life, we have to have a good mindfulness, good care not to be fooled by them. Of course, it doesn't mean that we should reject them. We should really enjoy them, make use of them, but do not use that youthfulness, do not use our health, do not use our longevity, even don't use your wealth to disparage others, to look down on others. And then, have that kind of conceit and arrogance. So all our good fortunes, good conditions in our life can develop our arrogance, and that is not going to really healthy for us. And eventually we will not be able to maintain any of them. So that's a very important lesson to learn, because when people get realize the reality of their life when things go bad, some people need a serious misfortune in their life to realize the reality of life. But actually we don't have to wait until a real bad thing happened to us to realize the reality of life. We don't have to wait until we lose everything to realize that, what really matters in our life. Even though when things are really happening well, we can still realize what really matters in our life. So that's the first lesson we can learn. Let's go to the second lesson. So after he had that prince life, we know that he was quite concerned about this, the possible vulnerability of the suffering in our life and all living beings. So he decided to have a serious search on the real meaning of life, and then he became a seeker, an ascetic, and then he started to learn from other teachers, try to find out the meaning of life and what really happening in the life and what's really important in our life. And mainly he was looking for how we can actually overcome our suffering. And anybody is vulnerable to experience suffering at any given point of time, no matter whatever our situation is. We can have so much power, so much wealth, so much fame. You may not have any of them, but we are all equally vulnerable to experience suffering at any point of time. And so he was more interested in finding out how suffering arises in our human mind, how we can overcome that. So he was doing that search. So we knew that he spent about 6 years in the forests, learning from other teachers. And most of his struggle, most of his search in the early part of his life was not very successful, right? But that doesn't mean that those things were not helpful. Whatever he did after he renounced his life was helpful to where he finally went. But initially he learned from the first teacher, right? Alara Kalama. And he was able to teach him meditation. So he learned. He was very committed student. He learned, and very quickly he became master of all the techniques that R.R. Kalama has to offer, and he even achieved the kind of peaceful state that the teacher was able to achieve. And then he realized that actually that was peaceful, nice, but when you come out from that meditation, life is the same. And you can't really make a permanent, enduring change in your minds in that state. So he was not satisfied with that. And after a while, he decided to, maybe this is good, but not good enough. And he decided to leave that teacher. Although the teacher asked him, "Okay, please come and help me to teach the same technique to others," and this is good enough. But ascetic Siddhartha was not happy with that, and he left that teacher and went to another teacher who claimed to have a more higher, advanced state of meditation. That was Uddaka Ramaputta. But actually, not himself, his father was able to achieve such a state, and Uddaka Ramaputta knew about it. He could not himself achieve that state. Then ascetic Siddhartha learned that technique, was committed, practicing, and actually he even was able to excel the teacher, go beyond the teacher and achieve what the teacher's father claimed to have achieved. And then the teacher was so happy, and now you are even higher than me. Why not you take care of my students and become our guru and our teacher? But the ascetic Siddhartha has the same problem, same issue, that it was peaceful, nice, but it's not really complete eradication of suffering. And when you come out from the meditation, it's still the same. So he was ready to try other methods. So he even left that teacher, and then he started to practice by himself. And the one common practice that was available for him during that time was what you call austerities, what we call self-mortification, methods to torture, not really methods to starve, give kind of torture to the body, actually by restricting the body, by limiting, by doing kind of extreme form of practices that actually go beyond the normal limits of the body, by giving such a pain, such a burden to the body, and they believe that you can actually alter your consciousness. By giving that kind of thing, torture to the body, they will be able to somehow shift and alter the consciousness, and that will be the liberation. That was the belief. So ascetic Siddhartha was ready, and he was practicing, and after a few years, he became the expert in that practice. And so many other ascetics were so impressed by the commitment of ascetic Siddhartha. He fasted to the level that his stomach was going all the way and touching the spinal cord. And his eyes were so sunken deep, and his legs a well which has no water, very deep. And there are so many explanations. And he will simply, touch his body, and all the hair of the body will fall down. So he did such an extreme form of asceticism, and everybody was impressed that he will attain liberation, because he was so committed. There were five friends who actually believed in him, and he was around him and practicing. After many years of that practice, ascetic Siddhartha realized that even those practices are not really bringing the liberation that he was looking for. And then he decided to give it up. That is when all the five friends who were really believed in him were so disappointed and left him completely. Now the ascetic Siddhartha was by himself. Nobody's around. Now he had to make a decision. Imagine, he was a prince. He was about to be a king. He left his kingship. After 6 years, no success. Imagine in what kind of mental state he was having. And after practicing all kind of austerities, to the fullest level anybody can afford, he was still not enlightened. But he was not still ready to let go. He was not ready to let go. That is the lesson we can learn from that part of the history of the Buddha. He was not ready to let go of his goal. He was ready to let go and change the techniques, the methods he used. He was changing the methods. He was ready to let go of the methods. If it is not working, he was ready to let go. He let go of the first method, second method. He was committed so much to austerity practice. If it's not working, he is ready to let go, but he's not ready to let go of the goal. So that's a good lesson for all of us. If anything that you are doing is not successful, drop your techniques, drop your methods, but not your goal. We confuse and we let go of the goal, right? We try to achieve something, after you fail 1 or 2, 3 times, you drop the whole goal of your life. You drop the goal. But what the Buddha did was actually, he dropped the method, not the goal. If you are not successful, that doesn't mean that you have something wrong with your goal. Of course, you have to be careful of the goal too. But most probably, the problem will be in the technique that you use, the method you try to achieve that goal. So the ascetic Siddhartha was able to change and drop his methods, but not his goal. That is why. And at the end, he was able to discover the middle path. And he realized that actually there's no point of torturing the body. I can take care of the body, and instead of going against the body, I can use the body as a tool, taking care of the body and using enough food, and then find a way to relax the body and use the very comfort of the body to develop the mind. And then he discovered what we call piti and sukha, and then from there he followed the middle path, and that opens the pathway for him to become the enlightened one. Because of his constant struggle, his constant focusing on the goal, but at the same time being ready, being flexible of his techniques, and ready to change the techniques but not the goal, he was able to go all the way to the enlightenment. That's a very good lesson for us to learn. So don't give up your goal in your life. Ready to give up the techniques, the method you use. And then continue to try different methods to achieve the goal. You'll be successful in one way or the other. So that's an important lesson for us to learn. And lesson number 3. So I'm trying to go from his early childhood, slowly to other one. Lesson number 3 would be after he became attained enlightenment, now he's the enlightened one. He's the Buddha. Nobody is above him, right? So he has full right to behave as if he is the top of the universe, right? But the thought occurred to the Buddha according to another sutra found in the Samyutta Nikaya called Garava Sutta, Sutta on the respectfulness. And Buddha had an idea that it is beneficial to live my life having a teacher in front of me. It is profitable to live a life with having a reverence and respectfulness and deference to someone higher than me. So dwelling without a reverence for someone is not good. So whom I should find a teacher that I can revere, that I can pay my respect. This is the thoughts of the Buddha. Now he is already the Buddha, but he is now thinking it is not good to live a life without having someone to respect. So who will be my teacher? Who will be the person that I can pay my respect to? So he really wanted to find someone. So he examined the whole universe, all the realms, to find someone who is higher than him in terms of virtue, in terms of wisdom, in terms of meditative attainments. So he was looking for someone whom he can pay respect to, because his realization that living a life without paying any reverence and respect to someone is not good. So examine the whole universe and realize that actually among all the Brahmins, contemplatives, all other kind of different kind of classes of beings, Brahmas, Devas, humans, there was no one who is higher than him in terms of virtues, in terms of wisdom, in terms of vision and knowledge, and no one. So then what did he do? He is the top in the universe. He decided to consider the very dharma that he realized as his teacher. He decided to pay reverence, respect, and regard the very truth he realized as his teacher. That is what we find in Garava Sutta. So imagine, what kind of lesson that we can learn from that? Whenever we are a little bit skillful, whenever we have a little bit of experience in something, whenever we have some knowledge about some subject matter, we become really arrogant and we really want to, treat everyone else like below us. And, but the life of the Buddha is completely different. He wants humility. Even as the Buddha, he wants a teacher, he wants a role model, he wants someone before him that he can pay respect. Having such a life is the more helpful, more better life. Then you will not have arrogance or conceited or whatever. So even Buddha had a teacher for him. But who was his teacher? The Dharma. The Dhamma was his teacher, the very truth that he realized. Because Dhamma, he discovered the Dhamma itself is independent, right? The Buddha did not produce Dharma. He discovered the Dhamma, and of course he taught the techniques to realize the same Dhamma. And he treated the Dhamma as his teacher. So, in your life, always have someone ahead of you. Always have someone that you can pay respect. Pay reverence. And that is more healthier way to live. Never develop any kind of conceit, arrogance, pride, just because we are skillful, we are good, we are knowledgeable, we are experienced in any field. So always have someone as your teacher. That's a real nice lesson to learn. Okay. Are you ready for another lesson? Lesson number 4. So let's review a little bit. Okay. What was the lesson number 1? It's from his early childhood. When he was a young prince. Never be fooled by the fortunes of your life. Right? I mean, the simple way. Never be fooled by the fortunes of your life, and never use your fortunes to develop arrogance and pride. And intoxication of youth, intoxication of health, and intoxication of life. And good times are the times that we can develop our delusions more than other times. So have that awareness. Second lesson, never give up your goal. No matter how many times you fail, never give up your goal. Stick into the goal, but never stick into the techniques or methods. Never try the failed methods again and again. You will again fail. Give up the methods, but not the goal. Lesson number 3 is, what is the lesson number 3? Yeah. Have something or someone always you can revere. Okay, lesson number 4. And now I would like to come to more like the life the Buddha lived as a teacher, traveling to different places, encouraging and teaching and sharing his teachings and training his disciples, and so many lessons to learn in that part of the life. He lived for 45 years, right? And as Buddhists, we are so fortunate because the Buddha lived for 45 years after he became the Buddha. That is not very common for many other religious teachers. Many the founders of other religions didn't live that far, that long. They had to pass away quite quickly. And so Buddha lived for 45 years. That is why we have so many teachings of the Buddha. So we don't have just one book. So in the US, most of the time, people will ask, when they come to the Buddhist center, okay, so you Buddhists, what is your book? The book. So what is your book? They think that, Buddhist has just one book. So I told them that, Buddha lived for 45 years. Imagine that how many teachings, how many discourses Buddha has given for 45 years. So we have preserved most of the important ones, of course not the all, most of the important ones. So we have many books, not only one book. At least we have 5, main categories of books, because of course the same teaching is given in different approaches, different dimensions. But so therefore we are so fortunate. So we not only have one book, we have so many books. at least 40 plus volumes of books so we can read. But we don't have to read all of them, not necessary, but of course we need to read at least few key discourses to grasp the main teachings of the Buddha. Every discourse Buddha will be explaining the different aspects of the same teachings to different audiences. So the next lesson we can, so therefore we have so many lessons to learn because so many incidents, so many encounters of the Buddha with so many other personalities in his time. And one important other lesson number 4 is actually the Buddha was so good in changing possible debates, arguments into fruitful discussions. Changing debates and arguments into discussions. There's a big difference between arguments and discussions, right? So that is one good lesson, changing the debates and arguments into discussions. I will share with you, let's see, maybe I'll share one instance, maybe two. There's one well-known person called Sonadanda at the time of the Buddha. That's a very important discourse the Buddha gave to this Sonadanda, a well-known debater actually, in the long discourses, Digha Nikaya, called Sonadanda Sutta. And Sonadanda was well-respected, a very intellectual man. He was able to debate with anyone. He has a very profound understanding of the Vedas, scriptures of that time, and even he was given a special mention by the king to respect him. He was living in the Chapala mansion given to him by the king. And he was living in that area, and Buddha happened in Buddha's tour of traveling in different villages and towns, and he happened to come to that area. Sonadanda, being well known as an intellectual, as a well-known debater, now he has no choice other than going and seeing the Buddha, because there's another teacher has arrived in the same area. In fact, many of his disciples, followers say that don't go to him. Don't go to the Buddha. But he said that, I'm a well-known person in this area, so these religious teachers travel, and it's a duty for me to go and see him. So he decided to go and see the Buddha, but he has quite hesitance to go to the Buddha because he was quite afraid of losing his fame. But he kind of prepared for a debate, having a very... He planned earlier, and if I ask this question, Buddha will answer this, then I will ask this. So he already had a kind of pre-planned, dialogue. He purposely asked a question that put the Buddha into a certain situation, and Buddha will reply this, then I will ask this question, then he will be in trouble. So he planned all these arguments in his head, and we prepared, he went with his own followers, with a big audience, and he went to see the Buddha. And so he sat down with, after exchanging all the courtesies, he sat down with the Buddha. And now, after he sat down with the Buddha, he was a little confused what to ask first. Because when you have too much planned in your mind, it's so difficult to execute them, right? Because when you go there, it's kind of complete different situation. Of course, Buddha was so friendly, he's approachable, he was not really any way ready to fight, to have an argument. So he was having some difficulty in starting a conversation. But the sense that he is having this difficulties, out of compassion, Buddha thought that okay, I will ask a question that make him comfortable. So he came to have an argument with the Buddha, but the Buddha changed everything to something else. Buddha thought that I will ask a question that he's familiar with. He's having no problem of answering. So he'll be comfortable. So Buddha asked this very simple question, very easy question for him. He was a well-known Brahmin. He knows so much about the Veda and all the Brahminic culture. So Buddha asked a question that is very easy for him to answer. He asks from him, tell me what makes a person a Brahman? What are the main characteristics of a Brahman, of a Brahmin? And so he was so happy. Yeah, that is my field. Yeah, I can answer so easily. So he explained, okay, there are 5 characteristics of a true Brahmin, and he explained that number 1 is attractive appearance. has to be in good color skin. Brahmin cannot be dark color. So so fair color, like attractive appearance. And a skill in chanting and performing rituals. Is skillful in rituals and chanting. And purity of the blood. He has to be, for 7 generations, he has to be born into the same Brahmin families. The purification of the bloodline. And then his virtues, his qualities, and then his wisdom. These are the 5. So he's very good. He was so happy. He answered in front of all the crowd. He was explaining, this is how the Brahmin is. I'm one of them. Not saying that, but implying that I'm one of them. So he felt so comfortable. So Buddha made him so comfortable to say that. And then Buddha asked, okay, after these 5 characteristics, what is the most essential? What is the most essential? What thing you can, can simply remove? And what is the most central? Then Buddha was slowly, bringing him to, to a situation that, then he said, okay, the most essential is actually not the physical appearance. Physical appearance may be secondary. And he said that even the ability to chant and ritual is also not really the central. And even the bloodline is not really the central. But actually most central is the virtues and the wisdom. He had to choose. And Buddha put him to, put him to more difficulty. Okay, now you say that virtues and the wisdom are the most central. If someone has no virtues and no wisdom, even though he's pure in the bloodline, even though he has a good appearance, even though he knows how to chant, doesn't make him a Brahmin. Right? Now Buddha asks, okay, among the virtues and wisdom, what you can get rid of? What is the most central between virtues and wisdom? Then he was quite intelligent person. He said that, Venerable Sir, I really cannot take one over the other because wisdom purifies the virtues and virtues purify the wisdom. And that was the real answer, the really profound answer. Buddha was so happy. Yes, Brahmin, I am also in the view that wisdom and virtues come hand in hand. Just like in order for you to wash your right hand, you need the left hand, and you need the left hand to wash your right hand. So wisdom purifies the virtues, and virtues purify the wisdom. So Buddha was so happy with that discussion. And then at the end, actually, the Brahman was so happy. Actually, Buddha enlightened me to really, reflect on my own, qualities. And Buddha did not really made me look bad, among this crowd. So he came with a prepared, argument to really create an argument with the Buddha. But at the end, actually, it was a really fruitful discussion. And everything ended, the whole crowd learned a new thing, and nobody looked down on Sonadanda or the Buddha. It was a nice exchange of idea. And then, at the end, this was such a fruitful discussion. At the end, the Sonadanda make a secret agreement with the Buddha. And he invited Buddha for lunch at his home. At the end of the lunch, he informed the Buddha, Venerable Sir, I'm a well-known person in this area. And I'm well respected by kings and everyone. If I bow down to you, they will really disparage me. They will not like it. Therefore, let me have a secret agreement with you. Okay, so I really want to, bow down to you, but I can't do it because that will be too much for the crowd. They will really look down on me. That will destroy my fame. If I lose my fame, I will also lose my wealth. All this respect, all this treatment for me because, I have that fame. So therefore, whenever I see you, if I join my hand, please consider that my joining of my hand is like, my greeting is like rising from my seat. I may not rise from my seat, but I will put my hand together. But please treat that as really rising from my seat. That is what I'm doing in my heart. and I will not be able to bow down at your feet, but I will take away my turban. That will be my symbol. Please consider that as my bowing down in front of your feet. And whenever I travel my chariot, if I happen to meet you by right, I should really get down from the vehicle and pay respect to you. But I'm not able to do that. That will, ruin my fame. So what I will do, I will raise my goad, my stick. I will raise that. That is a sign that I'm actually coming down, going down and paying respect to you. So all the symbols, secret symbols. He really wanted to pay respect to the Buddha, but he can't given the situation and fame he had. So he had a secret agreement with the Buddha. Whenever we meet each other, I will do these things. Please consider that as an obeisance to you. So imagine that is how the whole conversation, discussion ended. That was the skill of the Buddha, how he can convert all the debates, all the arguments into fruitful discussion. And there's another very interesting sutta also. We all are familiar with the Vassala Sutta. Vassala Sutta, the sutta on the outcast. And that whole sutta is a result of Buddha's transforming a debate, an argument into a discussion. Because what really happened, that actually Buddha was going in his arms round with his bowl, with his shaven head and the robe, and the very arrogant Brahmin called Aggika Bharadwaja, he saw the Buddha going with his arm round, he shouted at the Buddha, "Hey, the monk, the bold monk, stop right there. And hey, the outcast, stop right there." And he actually shouted and blamed and disparaged the Buddha, addressing the Buddha as a bold monk and as an outcast. He was really scolding the Buddha. So when he was scolding the Buddha using this really bad word, and he used this word outcast, Vassala. So Buddha stopped and turned around and said, "Oh, I'm interested. You use the word Vassala. That's an interesting term. And by the way, do you really know the origin of this term? What this really means? What are the real characteristics of a Vassala, an outcast? What do you mean by that term? What does it really mean? What does term entails?" And he didn't really think seriously about that term. He just used that term as a disparaging term. And Buddha said, "Let us have a discussion on that. And I will explain you what it really makes someone a Vassala." And he started discussion and went on explaining all the kind of habits which make anyone a Vassala, anyone outcast. He said that if someone who is able but not taking care of her or his parents, and he is an outcast. Anyone is outcast not by birth but by their deeds. So, and anyone who has taken a loan but not paying back when they're able is an outcast. Anyone is cheating their family, their wife or husband is an outcast. So it went into all the list of outcasts actually towards the very end. But they also said that if anyone is disparaging the Buddha or any virtuous person is an outcast. But actually Buddha made sure that he said that at the end. In the beginning he's explaining all the kind of bad habits which will make someone an outcast. Towards the very end of the sutta, you can read the sutta. Towards the very end of the sutta, Buddha said that someone who blames the Buddha is also an outcast. Really implying that he himself is an outcast too. So he was really able to transform all the debates into discussion and conversation and then teach someone a new thing. So that's something we can all learn. Whenever somebody really wants to start an argument with us, someone who debate with us, be mindful. And those disagreements that we are going to have, we should not really make arguments and debates. Any of our disagreements, any mismatching ideas are opportunities for us to broaden our perspective, for us to have a fruitful discussion. If anyone having a different opinion, anyone is disagreeing with you, take a moment. We can follow the Buddha. And take a moment and try to really listen what that person has to say, genuinely, and And then, if you are, hopefully, if you are really friendly and genuinely ready to listen to that person's point of view, hopefully, he will also have, politeness to listen to you. And then we will be able to, broaden our perspectives. So don't think that our disagreements are always bad. Our disagreements can open new pathways, new avenues, new perspectives for us. So that is the lesson number 4 we can learn. Okay. I think we have enough, right? One more? Okay. Just one, okay? Just one. You can go continuously the life of the Buddha. He lived 45 years, remember? So, okay, maybe one more, just one more, given the time framework today we have. Lesson number 5. Lesson number 5. Whenever Buddha gave a teaching to anyone, Buddha was able to understand, empathize with the listener. Before Buddha gave a teaching to anyone, he was able to really empathize and try to understand that person from his own background. What do you call be in his own, what do you call that, in shoes? Huh? Yeah, being in someone's shoes. Yeah. So Buddha was really able to do that whenever he gave teachings to someone. And if he's talking to a prince, a warrior, he will always quite sensitive, empathize his upbringing, his skills, and he will use the language of the warrior and all the skills of the warrior to give the teachings. And if you're talking to a farmer, Buddha will use the farmer's understanding, farmer's language, farmer's level of understanding and his own vocabulary to give the teachings to him. So that's a good lesson, right? Whenever we talk to someone, we just try to give our own opinions. We just try to talk to the person. Our interest is only to somehow express our idea to that person without really knowing that what is going on in that person's mind. We have no concern to understand that. We do have no concern to understand what this person's going on, what this person's background, what is his level, what is his family with. We are just hurried to express our own opinions. But that was not the Buddha. Buddha was quite sensitive, try to empathize that person's understanding. One example I can give you, this is found in Kasi Bharadwaja Sutta. And then, and again, it's also, the starting point of this conversation is not a friendly one. Again, when Buddha was going with his arms round, and he happened to cross a paddy field. A Brahman, who's also a farmer, is working in the paddy field. When he saw the Buddha is going for his arms round, begging for food, he got really angry. He shouted at the Buddha, "I am here, working so hard under this hot sun with sweating and doing my own cultivation and making my own rice and food. Why you go around with your bowl and begging for your food? Why don't you also work hard and make your own cultivation?" If someone tells the same thing to us, how angry we can be, right? So that's what really Kasi Bharadwaja told the Buddha. But of course, Buddha stopped, turned around, and Buddha told him that, "Oh, I also cultivate. I also plow." And he was confused. "Are you plowing?" "Yes, I plow. I cultivate." And he said, "I don't see any of your instrument around you. Where's your cows? Where's your oxen? Where are your other instruments? Where's your plow? I don't see any of them." "Yes, I have." And Buddha actually then used the language of a farmer to explain the cultivation Buddha is making. The Buddha says, "I am also doing a cultivation just like you, but my cultivation is a little different. You are doing cultivation in the paddy field, but I am doing a cultivation inside my mind. My cultivation is inner cultivation, and your cultivation is outer cultivation." And then Buddha uttered a very nice stanza. He said that Saddha bijang tapo vutti panya me yuga naggalang. Yeah, it goes on into nice stanza, but I will say that he said that Saddha bijang, my seed is my Saddha. That is my seed. Tapo vutti, the rain, my rain is my practice, my meditation practice. And my wisdom is my plow. That is why I will penetrate everything. And the goad that guide the oxen is my mindfulness. That's where I guide everything in the correct path. And my real oxens, my oxens are my virya, my effort. So he explained the whole spiritual practice, the morality, the practice of the faith, the morality and meditation practice, our virya, all 7 factors of enlightenment, all other supporting factors for enlightenment. He explained everything by using the farmer's language. And he's very good in explaining that the rain is this, paddy field is this, and explaining everything. And then at the end he said that, so your cultivation, after you cultivate what you get, your fruit, your crops is the rice. My cultivation, my crops, my fruits is the deathlessness. Amatang palang. And so actually the farmer was able to relate to the Buddha's teaching because Buddha was using the farmer's language. So Buddha was really kind of try to go into the farmer's shoe, I mean farmer's understanding, and to explain the teachings. So there's another good example. Actually, we all know about the Sona, the monk Sona. It's called Sona Sutta. The monk Sona was so effortful, and he was such a committed monk. He has so much of virya. He was putting so much of effort, so much of strength, and one day he was practicing so much, and one day he kept on doing walking meditation until to the point that his feet was spilled, the feet was damaged, his skin was damaged, and he was bleeding along the walking path. And then suddenly thought occurred to him, I am so effortful, I am so persistent, my virya is so strong, but still I haven't achieved anything in terms of spiritual attainment. I'm practicing so much, I'm not sleeping enough, I'm working so hard, putting so much effort to this spiritual practice, I haven't have any practice, so maybe this is not going to work for me. Maybe I will leave the spiritual practice, the monkhood. The Buddha realized what is the problem with this Sona. So what Buddha realized that actually the problem with this monk Sona is that he's putting so much effort. He's very good in effort, but he's not putting so much effort to relaxation. So in a spiritual practice, we have to maintain a balance of our faculties. Our faith has to be balanced with wisdom. If we have more faith, no wisdom, we can be so gullible. We will believe anything when someone say. If we are so much strong in wisdom but not faith, we'll be so cunning. I mean, be so critical. And then in the same way, the samadhi and virya has to be balanced. Our ability to relaxation and stillness. So that was the problem. He was putting so much virya but not relaxation. So Buddha really wanted to correct that. Then Buddha came to see him. Now, Buddha could have given a really technical explanation, real, doctrinal explanation. Okay, you have to balance your 5 faculties. This is wrong, and do this. These are the 5 faculties. But that is not what the Buddha did. Buddha came to him, was trying to realize his own condition, try to empathize with his own condition, with his background. The monk Sona was a musician. He was a musician. He was a player of veena. You know the veena? The instrument, the string instrument, veena. We can also call it lute. The instrument, veena. So he's a player of the veena. Then Buddha used his language. He asked Sona, do you remember when you was a veena player? And how did you tune your veena? when your strings are too tight, was it giving nice sound? Or was it tuned? Was it nicely tuned? He said that if the strings are too tight, too tight, and the sound is not good. Then Buddha asked, how about when your string is too loose? Was it playable? Was it in nice tune? Too loose? And he said, no, even it's too loose, it also doesn't give me nice sound, it's not playable. Then, what did you do? He said, I really tuned my veena to the level that it's not too tight and also not too loose. It kind of nicely balanced. And Buddha said that exactly that is what we have to do in your meditation practice also. Tune nicely. Tune between samadhi and virya. Balance your samadhi and virya. Not too much effort. You are putting too much of effort, not having enough relaxation. So practice your relaxation and also effort evenly. Then you'll get the good sound, good meditation. So he was able to realize it, and very quickly he was able to remove all of his defilements and attain the enlightenment. So that was because Buddha was able to empathize and try to really listen and attentive to the listener background. So whenever we were talking to someone, we really have to take a moment to understand the listener. Don't hurry to say what you have to say. Take a moment to understand to whom I'm telling this. What is his background? Particularly when you are talking to your children, you have to remember their background. They have a completely different world than you. You brought up in one world, they are coming up in a different world. Don't try to speak to them as if, having your own experience. You have to treat them as if they are from a different planet. Yes, now planet is different. They are from a different planet. What they are going through is not same as what you are going through. Their child is completely different from their childhood. So take a moment to understand what is their conditions. And they are exposed to so much information now. In those days, we didn't read much of newspaper, right? We only have one TV in the house, and we really have to negotiate with other family members to watch our teledrama, whatever. Now everyone has their own individual phones, and so much access, so much information, and schools are different. Everything is different. So before you talk to them, maybe take a time to really understand their situation. They are being bombarded by so much information, so much distractions. Try to understand that before you talk to them. And even any of your, for the family members, other friends. So before you talk, you have to understand whom you are talking to. Based on that, you have to change your language, you have to change your tone, you have to change the amount of information you want to tell. And that's the best way to pass any information to the other person. That is the lesson we can learn from the Buddha. So much to learn. This will be an inspiration for you to learn the life of the Buddha. The life of the Buddha itself can be a great lesson to us. So let us, as Buddhists, the very term Buddhist come from the Buddha, right? Those who follow the Buddha are called Buddhists. The Buddha, there is a term. So let us truly try to follow the life of the Buddha, at least remember in this very basic few lessons, and try to live like the Buddha, and try to change our interactions with others based on the Buddha, and in that way we will be able to be very successful in our life, and then help many others in our life. So I wish, may the life of the Buddha be a guidance for all of you. Thank you.
Okay. Our highest thanks to Bhante Dr. S. Pemarathana for the very excellent sharing tonight. Okay, any questions, brothers and sisters?
Yes.
What lessons can we learn about the Buddha's death?
Buddha's death. the way Buddha passed away. So much to learn, the way he passed away. There's one important sutta called Mahaparinibbana Sutta, where the last days of the Buddhas are recorded. So, what you can really learn, so there are a few things actually there. When Buddha was actually lying down, to getting ready to pass away, he told his disciples that if you have any doubts, any little bit of doubts about the teachings, please don't hesitate to ask me. Don't think that I'll be tired. I'm going to pass away. If you have any such doubt, please don't hesitate to ask me. So even in his we call dying deathbed, he was so compassionate and asking, and he said that don't be disappointed later. Now is the chance. Use this chance and please come and ask. So he was such compassion. Even at the last moment of his life, he was ready to compassionately help anyone comes to him. So until the last moment of our life, we can be helpful as much as we can to anyone. And of course, and at the end Buddha says that as a teacher, I have done my job. I have given you the teachings, I have shown you the path. Now it is your turn to practice. And so he gave the last statement, right? Appamadena sampadeta. Please be heedful and diligent and keep on practice. And the Buddha said that when I am gone, all of my teachings and all of my disciplines that I expounded will be your teacher. Don't think that you are teacherless. So that was the best lesson we can learn from the Buddha. Because sometimes, when people passed away, there's a vacuum, right? What Buddha did was actually made sure that there's no vacuum. The whole community will not be leaderless, will not be like directionless. And he made sure that all of my teachings and disciplines will be your teacher. So he made sure that the community will continue. So and then of course the way he passed away is also very mindful passing away. He lay down, he attained all the jhanas and went all the way to Nirodha Samapatti, and then kind of going back and coming down. Yeah, he was going to attaining the different jhanas, and then went all the way to Nirodha Samapatti and experienced, and then in the state of Nirodha Samapatti, it's almost like you are dead, but the temperature is there. The Venerable Ananda thought that he passed away, but Venerable Anuruddha was there. Said no, he hasn't passed away yet. Then he come down all the way to the fourth jhana, and then he passed away. So they're very mindful in almost like we are navigating your death. That's hard to achieve. But we can if you practice meditation. Not to the level that Buddha did actually. Yeah. But so there is so much to learn. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes, maybe I had to give another talk. Buddha as a parent. There's a good question, say Buddha as a parent. Because many people forget. Many people think that Buddha ran away from his family. Prince Siddhartha left his family, and people think that Buddha ran away. He left his family, ran away. But people have forgotten, he was away for how many years? 6 years. And he got enlightened. Within the first year of his enlightenment, he made sure to come back to his own hometown. And what the Yasodhara did, when the Buddha came down in the 9th month of his enlightenment, he came back. Given the distance and the mode of transformation of that time, 9 months is very short time. Very quick time to come back. He came back, and when the Buddha came to the hometown, Princess Yasodhara sent the son Rahula to the Buddha. And he was 7 years old. Many people has forgotten that from 7 years old, the son Rahula was not with Yashodhara, but with the Buddha. And Buddha actually raised Rahula, his son, as a father. Many people have forgotten that fact. And Rahula was with the Buddha from 7 years old all the way. Yes. And that's a whole different, discourse, and I had to say about. So fortunately we have, there's not much recorded how we really raised him, but we have 3 important discourses Buddha has given to the Venerable Rahula himself. One is given when he was really a small child, and other one is given when he's really a teenager, and another one was given when he was in 20s. It takes time. Which one you want to learn? How he took care of, how he parented the small child, how he parented a teenager, or how he parented a 20 years old one. Which one you will? I only have time for one. Otherwise we'll go all the way. Yeah. Teenager. Okay. So yeah. There's sutta called Maharahulo Vada Sutta. Actually, the Venerable Rahula was about 16, 17, that teenage. So this was really interesting discourse. So one day, Buddha want to go out for alms round. So whenever Buddha is going out, if the Buddha lived in the same monastery as the monk Rahula lived, Buddha will ask him to follow him. So because that's just an opportunity for him to look after him and give him a teaching also. By the way, after that 7 years old son came to the Buddha, Buddha actually ordained him, but Buddha appointed Venerable Sariputta as his preceptor. Not himself, as a preceptor. So it's always with Venerable Sariputta. But Buddha took care of him very much closely from childhood. So on that day, Buddha invited Venerable Rahula to follow him, to go for alms round. So Venerable Rahula was following him behind the father. The father and the son is walking on the alms round. Now with the Buddha and the monk Rahula. I think for some reason Buddha maybe realized that as a teenager, one of the preoccupation of the teenagers is their look, how they look. Okay, so I think Buddha sensed that Venerable Rahula, although he's a monk, he's a prince, right? He's good looking and he's like developing his body now. So he's having he may be having that concern, the preoccupation of his look. So they just started the alms round, just walk for a while, and in the middle Buddha stopped. Maybe Buddha sensed, Buddha have the ability of sensing the minds of the others. Buddha stopped and turned around, and just out of the middle, in the middle of the road, Buddha started, gave a teaching to Venerable Rahula. We should not treat our physical form as ours. We should not be fooled by the beauty of this physical form. This is not going to be forever, and you really cannot own your body. And he gave a kind of profound teaching about the body, right in the middle of the road, having the balls. And then when the Venerable Rahula heard this teaching, he was really taken by that. I think because Buddha really addressed his issue. And he was really taken by the being a teenager. He thought, okay, yes, I shouldn't really take my body as mine. Don't be so attached to my body. So Venerable Sir, I can't go after. I cannot come with you for alms round. I just now have to go and meditate right now. Really a teenage behavior, right? After giving teaching, I cannot follow you anymore. I really want to practice. I don't want any meal today. I want to go and practice my meditation. What did the Buddha say? Of course, Buddha knew that he was so hesitant, that's how, the teenagers, definitely he will fail. He will not have a successful meditation. But as a, insightful father, what Buddha said, Buddha did not stop him. Okay, if you really want to go and practice meditation, go ahead. But let him go and Buddha continued his alms round. Venerable Rahula stopped alms round, having any meal on that day, went and then went to Venerable Sariputta. He really wanted to as meditation practice. He learned the Anapanasati, the breathing and the mindfulness of the breathing meditation. He sat down on the tree and now continue to meditate. Continue to meditate. So serious. Continue to meditate. Buddha was not worrying about that. He went around the arms round and had the meal. But Buddha knew by evening he will fail and come back. But Buddha prepared a very important and a more gradual teaching for him. So in the evening, Venerable Rahula came to the Buddha, reported, Venerable Sir, I have been trying all day. I tried to focus my mind on bread, but I was not successful. Please teach me how to do that. Then actually Buddha gave more gradual teaching. Before I practice mindfulness breathing, Buddha said that, Rahula, try to train your mind like the earth. Try to train your mind like the air. Try to train your mind like the fire. Try to train your mind like the water. What he meant by that, earth is accepting any flowers thrown to it, and is also accepting any garbage thrown to it. The earth is not excited when people throw flowers on it, and earth is not disappointed or disgusted when people throw garbage on it. Earth can accept both in equanimous mind. So is the water, fire, and air. And detailed explanation. And Buddha encouraged all, first you have to practice this patience, this ability to accept both negative and positive things. And then you practice Brahma Viharas and loving kindness. And I don't have time to explain all this, very technical, methodological. And then finally Buddha said that then you can practice meditation and breathing. So the one lesson we can learn, Buddha was not quick to teach that lesson. He could have, taught that lesson right away when the Venerable Rahula was, hesitant to go and meditate. Stop. You practice this first. Buddha didn't say that. Buddha let him do his mistake. But of course, in a protected environment. Buddha really wanted to let Venerable Rahula practice and failed, and then he'll be ready to get his teachings. That is a good parenting skill. Sometime you have to let children to learn their lesson. It will be hard for you, but as long as in the protected environment, of course we have to intervene if they are going to burn their hand, burn the house. You really have to stop that. But you have to give them some freedom to do their mistakes, and then they will be more open to listen to your teachings. So that's one lesson you can learn. Yeah.